So let's talk about DreamHack. Let's talk about DreamHack. I'm very excited for this event for reasons that I was hoping would be announced today, but aren't announced today. So for reasons.
Uh-oh. Got me on the edge of my seat now.
Yeah, I bet you can't put that picture together. But in the meantime, let's talk about what's going on here because we got our groups. You are in Group A. You're going to be in Group A with Team 1, Pain, and Mythic. So you're with the Brazilians, although 2 of the Brazilians, not 3 of the Brazilians. Which Brazilian do you least want to play out of Team 1, Pain, Godsend?
Probably
the best
Pain, because I think they're like the best one of the bunch.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they just won the Blast thing in BO3s, and I think that they've consistently beat the other, teams. I think that like we can beat all 3 of them, no doubt. I think that like Pain and Godsend are a little bit above where Team 1 is right now. Team 1 hasn't really played too many series though, and they were really popping off toward the end of Premier, but it's kind of been a minute since they've played something. So we don't really know what level they're going to bring to this event. But historically, I've been good against Team 1. Junior's been good against Team 1. We haven't really lost to them in the past. So, I mean, that could change. Who knows? But typically, I've liked playing Team 1 in the past, and we've struggled more with the Pains and the Godsends.
I am very curious about Team 1. That is the team that I find it hardest to, looking at this group, trying to figure out who's going to stack up against who. I find it very hard to pin their level, right? Because obviously they played really well in Premier Playoffs to make Pro League. It was a huge run from them. But before that, they'd looked not great for a while. I think they went like 5-3 in the regular season, which in Premier is not an appetizing prospect.
Yeah,
right?
They only got in because, like, what do you call it? Third Impact got upset by, like...
Censored,
yeah,
Yep.
which, like, wasn't supposed to happen. And then they ended up going from not making Premier Playoffs to, like, just dominating the whole thing.
Yeah. So that level was awesome. It was just such an outlier. And then they obviously got had the bad news bears treatment in Pro League. They got 0-5. It was
fun.
rough. It's it is what it is, but it's very hard to draw too many conclusions from that, right? Like it's hard to really get a sense from getting your teeth kicked in of what the level is or where they're at. And then they haven't played anything since then, have they?
I don't believe they have. They weren't in the Blast Wally because it was 3 invited teams and then top 5 from Frag. I don't know. They weren't at Frag.
Do you know if they're back in Vegas?
I don't think they are because I think Brazilians are having a very hard time getting in the United States right now. So I think most of the Brazilian teams right now, and I think the ATK guys as well, are all somewhere in Mexico.
I know Pain and Godsend are in Mexico, and I know Team 1 had a team house in Vegas, but I do not know whether they got back there.
Fairly positive they're not there right now.
You think they're in Mexico too?
I'm pretty sure they're somewhere in Mexico.
Okay. Well, apparently everyone in Mexico's got great ping to Dallas, so...
Veto that server. Yep.
We're playing West Coast.
I'd rather play Denver than Dallas against any of these teams.
Hit them with the Denver server. Hit them with the lousy ping. Yeah, but I mean, so that's how that's gonna work out. That's interesting as well because like they have, like beyond like Pain and Godsend are newer to the seed. Pain's been around for a little while, but I mean just newer to NA. Team 1 had a legit house, and they've been there for a while now. So that's got to kind of suck for them if they can't get back to it. Because as much as, for other of these teams, like, does it really matter whether you're in the U.S. or whether you're in Mexico? Probably not. But for Team 1, they've been here long enough that, like, I mean, Maluk's been in the country for 2 years now, right? Something like that. Like, you put down roots a little bit, I'd imagine. I don't know. Have to talk to them about it, I guess. But I mean, that's Team 1. They're very hard to pin down. You match up pretty well against them. We'll see how that goes. Pain. Let's talk about that a little more. Obviously, they just won the Blast qualifier, as we said. They beat Extra Salt in that, which was huge for them because they'd had a lot of trouble against Extra Salt, in particular, in terms of series. Like, that was a team that always kind of messed with them. It feels like they have just steadily gotten better over the last 8 months or so. Would you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, they've been the team for, like, the past 2 years now or something. They've been together for a long time as a 5-man unit. So I think that one of the big things that's helping them right now is I think PKL is playing really well for them. He's a very like Kerrigan-esque style like impact player where he goes for a lot of entry kills, he goes for a lot of information, and so if he is playing well, then their team benefits a lot from that, right? Like he gets open kills, he at man advantage situations, just the information as the in-game leader. So he's been playing pretty well, I think, in some of these recent tournaments, and I think that's helped them a lot. But obviously, you have Safe, who is unbelievable, and that guy cheats, man. Like I'm telling you, he's incredible. And I mean, outside of that, Big Uzera is usually their second big guy, but Nekez always has pop-off potential, and Hardzal is usually very consistent. He's a lot of the role player, a lot of the lurk spots. So you don't expect him to put up big numbers, but he typically has been clutching, I think, a lot recently from what I've seen. So their team is just pretty solid from top to bottom. They have a lot of time together in XP, so good for them. They've done what everybody talks about doing, which is staying together as a team and then grinding through and making sure that you don't plateau or do anything like that. But they've definitely have improved a lot since being in the US, no doubt.
Do you view Hardzal, just from your description there, that almost reminds me of like Spongy's role in your team? Do you view them as analogous?
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much do the same thing.
Yeah. Always good when. So, like, again, a thing that I'm very excited for this event, and I have looked at it in some detail ahead of time. When I'm doing my prep and then hearing you, like, echo some of the things that I've, like, thought through, it's like, yes, okay, I'm not stupid. Yeah, woo. There's always that moment where you're just kind of working on things in a vacuum as talent, especially if you're someone who I'd imagine it's different if you're, a former pro and that kind of thing. But there's all these moments where, like, I'm thinking about the game and I'm like, okay, this is the... But then there's also those moments where I'm just like, who am I to know? Like, I'm shit at this game. Like, sometimes I have these thoughts and I think through my whole prep and whatnot. It's like, does any of this make sense? So it always feels good to hear you echo some of the things that I've been thinking of so that I don't just, feel like a fool. So how are you feeling about you guys in the group? Obviously, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before the cameras went up. Your first round matchups against Mythic. That should be pretty one-sided. Feeling good about that one?
I mean, obviously, it's Mythic. It's a team that we should beat every single day of the week. If you're a team that wants to be pro, if you're a team that, is at the top of Premier, vying to make pro spots, like, you should beat Mythic every day of the week. And if we don't, then that is honestly terrible for us, right? So Team 1 has to play Pain first round, and that's obviously a battle for both of those teams, and who knows who's going to win that. But it's just favorable because it's like, okay, we should beat Mythic, and then we should get 2 opportunities to make it out of groups, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, let's say if, whoever loses between Pain and Team 1, in theory, they had like, we would have to beat Mythic, which we would consider like an easier BO3, right? But then we get 2 BO3s as an opportunity to get out. In order for like Pain or Team 1 to get out, they essentially have to win 2 hard BO3s in the upper bracket and then 1 hard BO3 in the lower bracket, right? Mm-hmm. And so that path is like different. Even for the team that like loses the first round, then they still get to beat like Mythic or whatever, right? So then they get one good opportunity to get out. But it's just so it's like different in that aspect. So like I said, I think between the 2 of the 3 teams, any team can really come out. We obviously expect to get out. Our expectation going into this event is that, again, if we play well, we can win the event. Like, we play all these teams close. We play them in practice all the time. Like, we know that if we come out and we play our game, we can beat these teams. It's just about showing up and making sure that we play really good. And, again, like I talked about earlier, removing those factors where we hinder ourselves in the game. Mm-hmm. If we can, we realize that, like, DreamHack is also really important, too. I mean, it's like, because we didn't get to play Premier this season, and the same thing with Team 1, then, like, the winner of, I think, this Premier season gets to go to EPL, like the main event. And then the runner-up gets to go to the Challenger thing that qualifies for the group stage or whatever you want to call it. Technically, it's all EPL now, but there's
also EPL.
The extra event. There's like the extra
conference stage is what they're calling
the conference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this DreamHack is like the only way I think that we can get into the next season of EPL. Is by winning this, or if we get second and Extra Salt's already qualified, so if Extra Salt won and we got second, right, like, then I think we would get the spot. I don't know how it would work, but
I think hold on, I was looking at this earlier,
but like, it's an important event for us.
It is a very important event. Yeah, if you win this, you go to the conference stage.
Mm-hmm. And I think that there's another season of Premier after this, but I don't think it qualifies for.
I think you would go into the next one.
Yeah, I think so. Again, this is like, it's a very important event for us because it's our only chance to get into the next season of EPL. So it's very like we need to show up and we need to play a good event and we need to have good results because it's got important ramifications.
Yeah, absolutely with you on that. Also, just Nice chunk of change on the line as well. 35K for first place. You know, not bad. Not bad when you're loaning out a junior.
Oh yeah,
not bad at all. Yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting one, and I think your group as well is gonna be a really interesting one. My gut is that a lot of how your group plays out is going to hinge on Team 1, because to my eyes they're the biggest unknown, and it could be a very positive for them unknown, and it could be a very negative for them unknown. We've seen both, and it really is like I feel like I have a really good feel for, obviously because I just watch you guys play a shit ton of CS, but I feel like I have a really good feel for you and Pain in terms of like where you're at, sometimes where you struggle, where you do really well, like that kind of thing. And Team 1 is just, they're
the wild card,
tricky to pin down right now. Talking about the other group, Extra Salt, Godsend, RBG, Triumph.
I mean, RBG I think has looked a little better in practice recently, but there's without a doubt a top 2 in that group, right? Like, you expect Extra Salt to come out as the first seed. You expect Godsend to come out as the second seed. I think Godsend gave Extra Salt a little run for the money, though, during the past series. It was pretty close BO3. And I think Extra Salt's slumping a little bit right now, just from, like, the results that I've seen. And they're not, like, slumping. I mean, they're still, like, good. But I think that they went through, like, kind of a period where they were, like, this is clearly, like, the best. Like, they were clearly better than Pain. They were better than Godsend. They were beating, like, us, right? Like, and I don't think that they're at that level anymore. Like, Pain just beat them. We feel like we can beat them in a lot of BO3s. So
I feel like right around Summit, right around that last RMR, and like coming off their Euro trip, they did feel like they were ascending. Like it was like a legitimate argument of like, are they the second best team in NA? You know, like better than EG, better than Extreme Moms, better than, you know, that was the conversation that we were having around them with the way they were playing at Summit. And I think I agree with you. They've cooled. They're still very good. They're still very deadly, but they don't feel like they are. I mean, that EPL upset was, or the Premier upset rather, of making the EPL spot was a shocker in terms of, and that, a lot of it was about how well Team 1 played, but it was still like, that's not what they expect. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get back on track here in DreamHack and sort of slaughter the competition in their group, because if it's that Extra Salt that was super hot, you know, in the spring into summer, they would slaughter every other team in here, and they should, as much as I really like this Godsend team.
Yeah, I mean, again, you expect Extra Salt, you expect Godsend to come out top 2 of that group, and I think that RBG can definitely give a run for their money. I mean, they just lost to ATK though, which, like, I think that was a very surprising loss for them, especially because they lost first map to MOTM. Wasn't playing that map. They had Spray, the coach, playing. So I don't know. RBG might just be inconsistent right now. Who knows? But I think that they do have some upset potential there.
It's an interesting one. They had just played a game recently with at standing in, actually, during one of the qualifiers, just because I think Wiz was going to college or something like that, like moving to college and that kind of thing. They're super young as a team, so sometimes life gets in the way a little bit, but it would be an interesting one. We've talked about it a little bit. We were talking about it before this went live, about just how it feels like this last month or two has just been so much CS, where in particular, I know for me this month, it was like at the beginning of the month I was blocking out a few things, and it feels like more things have been cropping up, so I just haven't had days off in a while, which is good because make hay while the sun shines, and event opportunities are awesome, but I'd imagine as a player as well, it's pretty, it can get pretty exhausting at a certain point where it's just like, okay, I wake up, here's another event.
I mean, yeah, especially because, again, we feel like we have to play every event. We don't have an org, we don't have anything. We make, you know, our money via prize pools and stuff, right? So that's how we make our living, and so we feel like we have to play every event. But obviously, you know, there's an event every single week. There's an event, you know, we practice every single day. We play events, you know, whether it's cash cups on the weekends, dream hacks that are coming up. And I mean, I don't know, you know, on one end, I don't want to complain because having these events and being able to play them is like really sick, and it's really important for us. But at the same time, I think we are going through stuff where it's like, man, like we are playing all the time, and it's just like, you know, it's one of those things where you're just so locked into the moment that, like, once, you know, the player break comes around, or once the, you know, you have like 2 or 3 days off, you're just like, whoa, like I have a day or 2 off. Like, we take like 1 day off a week and we're practicing the other 5, or playing events the other, you know, days. And so it's like, that's just not normal comparative to how, you know, your day off might be on a Monday because DreamHack runs through Sunday, right?
Yep.
Your day off might be a Friday because you don't have an event, you know, until you don't have an event that week, right? But then you play the Cash Cup on Saturday and Sunday. So your day off every week is very, you know, it's just variable, and who knows how many days you get off. It's super dependent on your performance. It's super dependent on how much you want to practice, what people have going on in their personal lives. Like, yeah, definitely a roller coaster.
It's one of those things where it's like on the positive side of things, that number of events and the fact that there's that many opportunities to play is I'd imagine a big part of why you guys are able to keep doing it, because obviously you don't have a salary coming in, and you gotta earn that money. But the flip side is, like, without being able to fall back on a salary, without being able to, with the feeling like you have to play in every event, there's a lot of events, which is good. But I think the way I always tell it to, like when I'm talking to, like, my family or that kind of thing, and they're like, how are you? And I say I'm busy. It's like, well, but that's better than the alternative. Because, like, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic when there was just fucking nothing, and I was like, oh, this is how I'm gonna have to lose. Like, I thought I was just gonna mess up on my own and go broke and lose my job. I didn't realize the global pandemic would do me in. So I'm still happy that there's opportunity. Very happy that there's opportunity and stuff going on.